the doomed expedition of Captain Elias Thorne. The Arctic had always called to those with restless souls. It was a land of endless white, where icebergs loomed like frozen titans, and the winds howled with the voices of the damned. To venture into its heart was to challenge the unknown, to risk everything for a taste of immortality. And so, in the winter of 1872, Captain Elias Thorne set out on what would become the most infamous Arctic expedition in American history. Unlike his predecessors, Thorne was not a naval officer, nor was he a scientist. He was a former war hero turned explorer, a man whose charisma and unshakable belief in manifest destiny convinced the United States government to fund an ambitious voyage to the North Pole. Aboard the USS Valiant, a reinforced steam-powered vessel, he led a diverse crew of whalers, scholars, and mercenaries, men drawn together by either desperation or blind faith in Thorne's vision. Among them were First Mate Arthur Graves, a battle-hardened seaman with a past shrouded in bloodshed; Dr. Heinrich Voss, a German surgeon rumored to have fled Europe under scandalous circumstances; and Jasper Holt, a quiet cartographer with a talent for etching fear into his maps. The ship's roster also included a small group of Inuit guides, including a woman known only as Silak, whose piercing eyes seemed to see through the souls of men. The USS Valiant departed New York Harbor in early spring, disappearing into the cold embrace of the Arctic by midsummer. Spirits were high at first, bolstered by Thorne's unwavering confidence and the promise of discovery. But as the ice closed around them, sealing the ship in its frozen grasp, tensions flared. Supplies were ample, yet the crew suffered from nightmares, visions of shadowed figures moving between the icebergs, whispers that crept through the corridors at night. Jasper Holt confided in Graves that he had seen something staring back at him from beneath the ice, something too large and too still to be natural. Voss dismissed these accounts as mere hysteria, but Silak remained silent, watching with unreadable eyes. Then, in early October, Captain Thorne embarked on a short overland expedition to survey the terrain. He took Graves, Voss, and 2 Inuit guides with him. When they returned days later, Thorne was a changed man. His hands trembled, his breath came in short gasps, and his once commanding voice was now a hoarse whisper. He spoke of an altar of black stone buried in the ice, of symbols that burned themselves into his mind. "We are not alone here," he muttered, again and again. Not long after their return, Thorne fell ill. He suffered from violent spasms, vomiting, and bouts of feverish paranoia. He accused his officers of betrayal, claiming that someone had poisoned him. The crew dismissed it as frostbite-induced madness, except for Holt, who had been watching Thorne's decline with keen eyes. He suspected otherwise. Then, one night, Voss administered a treatment to Thorne, after which the captain's condition deteriorated rapidly. By morning, he was dead. The official cause was declared a stroke. No autopsy was performed. With Thorne gone, the fragile chain of command collapsed. Graves assumed leadership, but discipline disintegrated. Voss exerted an unnatural influence over the crew, speaking in cryptic tones about destiny and sacrifice. The men whispered of things moving in the dark, of voices that called to them from beneath the ice. Silak and the remaining Inuit guides vanished one night, leaving behind only their sleds and weapons. Graves found their tracks leading north, to toward the very location Thorne had spoken of before his death. He forbade any man from following, but Holt, driven by his own curiosity, ventured out alone. He returned 3 days later, raving. He spoke of a cavern beneath the ice, where walls pulsed like living flesh. He claimed to have seen Thorne there, standing among the ruins of some ancient civilization, his eyes filled with unnatural light. The crew locked Holt in the brig, but by morning he had disappeared, leaving behind only a map drawn in his own blood. As winter deepened, the USS Valiant fell silent. Messages stopped, and by the following year, no trace of the expedition remained. A search party found the ship intact, but eerily abandoned. The logs ended abruptly with a single, chilling entry from Graves. "We have seen beyond the ice. We have heard the voices. If you find this, turn back. Do not follow where we have gone." Thorne's body was never recovered. Some believe he succumbed to madness, while others whisper that he still wanders the ice, leading lost souls to the altar he discovered. The Arctic keeps its secrets well, and the fate of the USS Valiant remains one of its darkest mysteries.